of cannabis and healing, there is sort of no time. I tend not to live in a normal time frame anyway. So just a little bit of history. So in the early days, BJ and I had Happy Herb shops. We had two, one on the Central Coast, one in Newcastle. And Newcastle ultimately became the Church of Ubuntu, and that was to cover the oils. And I was really passionate about the client care side of things, and so started to introduce the consultation process and intake forms, and set up a formalised methodology of assisting clients in a holistic and integrated way. So in essence, that was the very first medical cannabis clinic in Australia, and that was June 2014. So where are we now? I don't.
2021.
2021. See, time. There's no such thing as time. In my world, there is no time. And so that was still very much low key. I was still very much still in a little bit of fear around the cannabis. Now, what is really interesting around fear and what we call the unconscious fear is that even though there was no history, there was no reason for me to be afraid of the legalities or the cannabis plant or anything like that. I had no history, there was nothing. There was this real terror inside me, and worrying about the business, whether people were going, clients, not clients, whether staff would be put in jail, whether I'd be put in jail because, legally things were in my name. And so there was a real hold of fear for about a year at least. And then, the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And finally one day, because nothing I did worked, and BJ wouldn't stop making oil and helping people. Not that I wanted him to stop helping people, but it was around the oil. So, we started the clinic, the oil kept making, Natural Law Wellness. We then separated, and the two organisations separated, but we continued the work. And so my focus stayed on the client care, on producing programs, really getting focused on that holistic and integrated approach. And BJ stayed focused on the oil and what was happening in Newcastle. And so, and obviously we still work together, we still share information, and and there's still obviously a lot more to go. And so over however many years, it's been a really quite an extraordinary journey, and on many levels, on all levels, which is why I'm really passionate about that holistic and integrated approach. So for me, it's not just about cannabis, it's actually about how do we live. And really that's a part of what today's talk about is sustainability, and we'll go a little bit more into that in a minute if you wanted to introduce yourself.
I think everybody knows me except maybe for this lady. No. Yeah, all that she said and then some more.
Okay.
No, yeah, cannabis, once you understand it and you let it work with you, you can't stop. Basically, that's what happened to me. When a mate of mine in the cannabis industry who came to us in the Newcastle shop, and he said to me that cannabis was useful medicinally. I said, "You're kidding?" And he said, "Yep." So through time I went and bought an ounce from a musician from Tamworth, and I made some medicine, and then, because the internet told me basically how to do it, and I put some of my own knowledge to it about science and stuff, and I haven't stopped since. So, because it works. But what it does, it also opens up our avenues of what Nikki was talking about, is making people's minds change from a paradigm of conditioning, bad conditioning for a long time, to a DNA, unfortunately, a DNA conditioning that is very hard to get rid of. Cannabis is probably one of the only type of food products that can assist the slow change of how we think as human beings, because we're not doing a very good job the way we think at the moment. But cannabis does make you think differently. It makes you come from a more empathetic place and a more helpful place or whatever. So, if 10% of the population were eating and doing cannabis or using cannabis, we might have a change. If 20%, 30%, there's huge change. But it's only until that we're going to get change. Just fighting what's happening around at the moment is just a waste of time. We're getting more and more people using the plant as a structure of food, not as a drug, not as an escape. Eating it in all its forms, cooking with it, doing whatever, and it works. There's no two ways about it. So it's sticking to that basic stuff. There's nothing complicated about it. It's just mankind's most important food. Obviously, that's all intricate when it comes down to different strains doing different things, and that's for sure. That's definitely how amazing it is, that the plant covers all avenues for what the humans need, even the way we think, let alone our molecular structures. So, yeah, the Church of Ubuntu, I think we've been able to do what we do with the legal side of things because this country is still run under a theocracy, a soft theocracy, which means that it's scripturally based. All laws are still based on having a queen who's supposed to be a representative of God for us, even though she's furthest from that. That's another subject. So we've got to hold them to that. We've got to hold them to that. If our laws, if we hold the people to understand that the laws that we have are based on those principles of a book that was written a long time ago, then we will have success, because the book is supposed to be what all the laws are based on, and that's my whole focus. To me, doing much with the political side of things is a waste of time. It seriously is. Working with monkeys ain't going to change the monkeys too much, and politicians and politics are monkeys. Hello! Look who's here!
It's the beautiful Adi.
Ask questions, guys. I don't want us to talk about me and or Nikki. We would like to talk about how we move forward, how we take this to the next level, because it has to happen. It's a very slow thing. As Nikki said, we've been doing it for 10 years or more, 11 years, whatever it is, and we haven't really moved forward, except for as many people that we've helped. I mean, together, I think, just in our databases, we've got almost like 13,000 people that we assist or have assisted, and I'm still assisting. So it's successful beyond measure. It's just getting it to the people outside of those who control the people, and that's a hard one. Unless we change government, we're not going to change anything, so we have to change the people. Yeah.
So this is where I jump in, because we do still have slightly...
I can't follow the politics route. I'm just trying to say, people, let's do this thing outside of the politics and fight the politics, because we will win down the line. We have to.
So the whole premise of sustainability from my perspective, and we've been working on a model. So this isn't just about what can we do. This is actually about what we are already doing and who's already involved and what's actually possible. For me personally, coming from that place of having fear of the government and having the door knocked down, all sorts of crazy things over many, many years, now that world doesn't actually exist for me. So not just time doesn't exist, the government structure itself it's not helpful to mankind, it's not helpful to individuals, it's not helpful to families, it's not helpful in any shape or form, so therefore it doesn't exist. Simple. How can it actually be anything that we give any credence to in any way possible? Individuals within that system, that they will have their own way of looking at this, and we want to work and talk to those people. But the point is, what we want to do, or not what we want to do, what we are doing is through, and let's just use the word energy, through the energy of our love and our care, and that is an incredible amount of energy on all aspects. And so through those dynamics and through that collaboration and through the sharing, actually we can create a new system, and even not even a new system, we can actually create a way of living that is nourishing, wholesome, real, full, loving, supportive, helpful, and it's kind. We are human.
What does it cost?
Kind.
What does it cost? This lady want to ask a question.
Have you got anything to do with Michael Tellinger? The Ubuntu movement?
Yeah, not really. I'm from South Africa, as you might understand with my accent. I grew up with the African people and very privileged to live the Ubuntu life with them for my first 15 years of life. So I do know Michael. He's an amazing man. He does amazing stuff. And the Ubuntu thing is just human kindness. It's nothing special.
Well, he basically has the villages,
Yeah.
where they don't use money. You just make a contribution.
Contributional system. This works very well.
And it works to actually make you prosperous in beyond
Yeah.
in every sense. Real
Yeah,
money, real
absolutely.
prosperity.
Yeah.
Because it's money that's killing us.
It is.
Well, yes and no. I agree to a certain extent, but I have a saying: money is a resource, and love is the source. So it's our
Value
everything
exchange.
is perception. It's how we perceive money. And we perceive money as evil. No, it's not. It's a piece of paper that we have given an element to it that then can be utilised. So if we switch the way we think, and change the perception, and really that then changes the outside, so the inside. So, you know, my personal understanding is if we don't change in here, there is no chance of it changing outside. So there's no point rallying around, pointing fingers at government, pointing fingers at other people if you actually haven't taken the steps to change within yourself first and foremost. Then you share with that kindness. Then you share with that love. Then you share with that dynamic presence that we all have as a whole. Not exactly. Thank you, the beautiful Malamut. It agrees. You know, and you know, as you may hear by the tone of my voice, I'm very, very passionate about this. And we've spent years actually setting up a sustainable model. I have dedicated 25 years of my life. And it's not my life, it's our life. I'm not on my own. We're all in this together, and we're surrounded by some amazing people, and some of them are crews here, but they seem to have gotten lost. But, you know, we've done a 12 module certification process for consultants. So being the people that led the way to set up the first medical cannabis clinic in Australia, well, we needed to then set up the right training. So I've spent 5 years creating a benchmark certification. No, it's not government approved, but it's approved by the people who have worked in this. And what we see, how do people respond when they have cannabis? Now, cannabis, unfortunately, is being really strongly promoted as a therapy-only product. It is not. It can change the perception. It can change the platform from the way you think. It can change things that you don't even know are possible because we only use a small percent of our brain. What if these teacher plants open the brain, but more than that, then you have to be responsible for what you then do with that new way of living. So this sustainable model, and there is actually a model, and we do have to use money, you know, because that's the currency, as well as not just money, but also, you know, plants and the herbs and people. And so there's the training. There is it's called the portal.life, and then consultants can use a database. Then they can order products online. Everything threads back through. It actually works. It's already up and running. It's real, and it exists. And, you know, we want to encourage everybody to be involved, where the practitioners get to meet the growers and the oil makers, and they understand who's growing the plant. And when you're talking to a client, you can say with absolute authenticity and confidence that I've met the grower. He's a really cool guy, and I've been to the land, and then I've met the oil maker, and this is what you're getting. And then it's a true story. It's not made up. And so what we're seeing is, unfortunately, in the cannabis industry, the same thing as what's happening in the normal industry. It is, you go to the doctor, you get a script, you go and buy it, you take it as a therapeutic medicine rather than a valuable, insightful, and potentially life-changing, paradigm-shifting possibility. There is so much more to this story.
Besides getting stoned.
Yeah, that one too. And see, and actually, I've got to share. I've written it down. I was telling my parents that they were coming here. My mum actually wanted to come as well, and but she had other commitments. And I said, so my stepfather said, "So what's the topic?" And I said, "Well, cannabis and a new paradigm of sustainability." He said, "Oh, so it's a different way of getting high." He's actually embraced the oil. He loves now. It gives him some sleep and helps with the pain. So he was very, very, didn't want to touch the oil. He's 86. He's originally from Canada, and he's very, very particular with what he does put in his body. He doesn't just take, what the doctor says. But now that he has started it, he's feeling better and he understands it. And so, just gently, the plant's doing the magic. I didn't have to say anything. It happened.
So what you are doing is you are disseminating cannabinoids in some form, but you're not actually creating a social structure around them, are you?
Can you clarify that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean a social structure?
Well, is it like a community thing where people, old people, children...
Yeah, if I had lots of zeros in my fictitious bank account, I would do that, yeah.
The answer's yes.
Yeah, we are doing it, but I'm of the premise too that when we build community in the future, and we do need to step away from the system that doesn't work. Stupid if we do stay in the system that doesn't work. But as you do that, as we move into new communities or do whatever we've got to do in the future, we've got to realise the most important thing in creation is that birds of a feather flock together. So certain birds don't live together. And there'll be a lot of humans that shouldn't be living with another bunch of humans. You've always got to find those who will live with you and make you more creative and more loving and caring. If you're going to be living in communities where you're not going to be happy with the people that are your neighbours and stuff, get out of that community, because that's the cause of all problems. You've got to find the birds of your same, and then you can go and live with the other ones for a while, but you don't live there completely. You know what I mean? So to me, the community thing is huge. We do have to do it, and we're doing it in our own little way, but people will do it, hopefully, not too late. I don't want to sound like a bringer of doom, but yeah, things aren't very good. So start preparing, I would say. Start preparing communities that you can get together and start doing stuff, and don't get too shockingly panicking about it, but it can be fairly quickly that they execute all sorts of crazy stuff, as we saw at this festival. The amount of coppers I've been told, and how many people are getting busted and been busted and whatever. It's and they just do it willy-nilly. I tell you, this is an important bit of information that you guys need to relay to everybody. Okay, Nikki and I were very privileged to sit in a meeting with the Office of Drug Control. This is Australian Office of Drug Control. This is Australian government, a part of the health department, is called ODC, Office of Drug Control. Now, these guys control all the drugs. They get told by the TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Association, who should get and the rights to deal and do whatever they do in all the drugs. Through a whole story, and I won't go into it, we were in a meeting with the director of the Office of Drug Control and also the director of the medical cannabis section of the Australian Health Department. Through the meeting, I think I got to ask him a question, as if to say, I said to him, well, if we were to need a license, if I thought that I needed a license to grow cannabis, what would I need to do? And he asked a lady from the medical cannabis section to explain it to us. And her first sentence was this, that when they see a business proposal, and as she said the word business, I went, huh? And the table went quiet, obviously, and I had to explain it. I said, I thought I was sitting in the building that's called the Office of Drug Control in the Australian Health Department. And of course, the issue is there that even the Office of Drug Control needed to see a business proposal before they would give me a license to grow this plant that is a life essential. That meeting did lead to, this is the need for me to mention this, that meeting did lead to getting an eventual transcript about the meeting, even though it wasn't the exact transcript. It was a very good and well-documented or well-worded document. But there is definitely a sentence in there by the Office of Drug Control, by the director, and it says this, guys, and please tell people this. There is no current federal legislation that precludes the use of whole plant. When they talk about medical cannabis, nowadays they have to make it the medical way, and that means taking stuff out of the plant, THC, CBD, CBC, in an isolate form or in an extraction form, and then putting it back together with other ones to make something. They can't use full extraction of the plant. They can't use the whole plant. It's not medical, because that's the way the tincture makers and the herbalists have been making it for thousands of years. You soak herbs in alcohol and you've got medicine, okay? So understand that we don't make medical cannabis, we make whole plant medicines. They have to make medical cannabis. So in the medical cannabis laws, in the trafficking laws and all the laws around this plant, there isn't one in Australia that negates you using whole plant. Done. But nobody pushes that.
Is that New South Wales
No, that's Australian, federal, yeah. So, okay, I'll give you my history quickly, and this might make you understand how I understand the government have buggered up, and it's for our advantage, really. $32 million, big brief, $32 million passed hands from a $400 million man, Barry Lambert, to the University of Sydney via Mike Baird, the then Premier of the state. Mike Baird did a press release and mentioned they were going to look into medical cannabis by the university. I love the fact they put those two words together, medical and cannabis, in the same sentence. So I think this is 2014 or 2013 or something. Within a little while of that money then changing hands from Barry Lambert's account to the government to the university, Professor Ian McGregor, who was running the then Pelican research thing that they set up to investigate cannabis, went to the black market. He came to me and asked if he could look at my patients and test my oils to see success. This is for epilepsy. I said absolutely, and he did to go to other people too. So within a couple of weeks of them getting $32 million, he came to the black market and asked for our patients and our oil, yeah? Which was fine by me. What it did too, though, is it lined me up with the government. Straight away, I'm an employee of the government, aren't I? Government's given money to the university and he comes and tests my patients and takes my oil. Doesn't pay me any money, he just does it because that's what they do. I used that in my court case, by the way, and the judge got it because I'm talking to the man who was given $32 million by the government and I'm making oil for him, so I actually was working for the government, even though I wasn't. That's where they buggered up. When they opened up the loophole to let the university, because the government would have to have done that, the federal government would have had to open up their laws to let the University of Sydney test cannabis, because they're bound by United Nations 1961 bullshit story. So when they opened up that, they didn't stop guys like myself and the many others that make medicines, or cannabis medicines, from doing it, because the Drug Misuse Act is only for a drug that is used in a misuse situation. It's not a medical one. We also have a letter from Brad Hazard, the New South Wales Health Minister, and please use these words, guys, or we can give you copies of them. When he was asked what the plant cannabis sativa is, the Health Minister of this state stated that, like this, and it's in black and white, it is both the plant used in medical cannabis and also in trafficable street misuse drug. It is only the intent that differs. Intent. Whether you're going to take a bag of weed and go and sell it in the street, that's naughty. But if you're going to make medicine from it with alcohol and make it, or whatever you do, and you're going to give it to people for their assistance, that's not the intent of a drug being trafficked. Okay, that's a medicine being passed. That's the intent. So all these little things help us with the law, because they get that all these little loopholes weren't closed. And wording is very, very important. Really look at words, people. There are deep meanings in all words, proper meanings, not the ones you've been told. So those are the things that help us get to where we have got to. But we need to use that, along with the scriptural thing, because it's the basis of all law. The fact that the government hasn't got a law to stop the whole plant, and the fact that they... And this one I will discuss quickly too, and please let's talk about this because it's very, very relevant. The legal people are the ones that should be running the country when it comes to laws, not the politicians. It's seriously crazy that politicians are run by commercial interests that run laws. There is a book, and this beautiful woman went and found it for me when I had my court case. She walked into a bookshop in Newcastle and found two books, and one of them was called Legal Change, and it's by Julius Stone, one of the most whatever judges of this country legal system, Julian Stone, sorry, or whatever it is. And the book is called Legal Change. And the first chapter is called the Ontology of Legal Change. The Ontology of Legal Change. And the first paragraph, and then a few pages later, and a couple of other paragraphs, whatever, basically what it states is that when the judiciary see blatant laws that are wrong, and it's very blatant with cannabis, extremely blatant, that the judiciary have to become the legislators and make a decision and change the law. They have to. And in this case, it is now, I believe, through a whole lot of people are influencing judges and whatever, and a lot of us do, we have a lot of contacts, that they will be told that they are now the next one's liable, because Australian law is set on a constitution, 1901, very, very well documented document, by the way, very good document, never been followed, by the way. But in there, is the setup that means that when somebody is showing a judge that the law is absolutely wrong, the judge has to change the law. You can't leave it up to the politicians. So that's the next step that we're going to have to go to. So I would say this to all people who are very adamantly active with cannabis: get busted. They're not going to jail you. And go, take it to court, and let's show as many magistrates and judges the truth, because the other guys aren't listening. I don't know, if you want to ask questions on that, to me that makes sense. And they are liable. They are liable under their own laws, that they have to be the ones that make the choice, not the legislators, because they don't. They haven't.
But you have to show them the intent.
The intent is that it's in a bottle, and it's a whole plant concentrate, and that the intent is to help somebody. It's not to get them stoned by giving them something they're going to smoke. Yeah. And
we both have ours labelled, because I have a range as well. So BJ's has his as whole plant food, cannabis is food, and mine is nutritional cannabis. So to me it's nutrition, food, same. So the intent is actually food or nutrition. There's a rationale behind the use of this plant that is not illegal per se. So, or again, in my world, is just completely ignore what's going on in that system and let's build our own. The energy of enough people coming together will tip the scales. That is what's missing. It's really not rocket science. If enough people actually just stood together and worked together in a wholehearted manner, it would just tip the scales. It just wouldn't, that other world wouldn't even exist. But sometimes I feel like I'm living in a different world by myself at times. A different paradigm out there, and which is fine. I'm not lonely. It's actually very full. It's actually fantastic. Wish more people were there. So it's a very big bubble. Anyone can join. But really, if we keep abiding in that system, we are supporting it. If we're in fear of the system, we're supporting it, and I know that from my own history. If we don't recognise them from a place of love. Now, this is the key factor. Not from anger, not from spite, not from fear, not from history, but from love and understanding and compassion, going, really, you're just not quite thinking this through. I'm really sorry, but we're going this way. You go that way, but we're going to go this way, okay? If you want to come and join us, please feel free. That's the space to come from. That's that heart-filled kindness. Because they're just confused. They're just conditioned, like we all are, by the way. No one gets away with not being a human being conditioned for millions of years. Nobody isn't born with these belief systems and societal attributes. But it is the individual responsibility to have a really good look at that within ourselves and then help.
All right, open the floor for questions.
So what is your strategy to attract more people into it?
Well, because what we do is quite time consuming, I have myself, I'll just talk from what we do. We at the moment are setting up little communities here and there that are growing and setting up little homes and trying to be off-grid and all that sort of stuff. That is happening fairly readily. But communities don't have to be living together. They can be the ways people think. You can come together as a community on Facebook and never meet anybody and just support each other. So back to how we do it, we've got a website and we talk to people and we help them and we do all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it's almost as if I don't want to advertise. Somebody said I want to bring the combi that we have sign writing on and stick it out the front there. I said, please, no, don't do that. I'm busy enough as I am. I don't want advertising. And it's the same thing with this political thing. I've got into the political situation a couple of times, but I've got to the conclusion now that the legalised cannabis, and please join, guys, join these political parties, but our cliched saying should be, please don't vote for us. Just listen to us. Nobody in the cannabis industry wants to be a politician, for fuck's sake. But just listen to us, and it's a media way of getting through to people too, I suppose, political parties. But it's never worked. It'll never work having a political situation work.
But to help answer that question, we do actually have a way, And so through either being a client or even another association, so the whole idea of this certification is not just to become a consultant, it's to actually come into the philosophy of collaboration, sustainability, and everybody who comes in, whether it's a client, whether it's a practitioner in training, abide in an integrity agreement. So some of you may or may not know that doctors no longer take the Hippocratic Oath and haven't for about 25 to 30 years. So do no harm doesn't exist, just so you know. So we have an integrity agreement, and the integrity agreement is around everything we're talking about. So that's for all people. And so once you become involved in this, whether it be in any of those formats, and so we've got a couple of organisations who they will assign one representative from their organisation to do the 12-module dynamic learning. Dynamic meaning you don't end it, it doesn't stop right there. I'm an expert, and that means I don't stop learning. It doesn't mean I just finish, and to me an expert means you don't stop learning, but learning not from other people's knowledge, learning from your own direct experience as well. And so people will then, I've got a little spider that's jumping all over me, it's having a great old time. And then from that, they can then share that information back, and then it's a shared mutual learning between the main hub and the other organisations. So for example, we're looking at setting up a hub in northern Sydney, and so that's going to, and then a place where we can do make the oils, make the teas. I have a range of teas as well, and non-illegal, let's call it, products. 1 second, sweetheart, we'll come back. Yes, definitely. And so therefore you can start to contribute and assist and work with your own organisation. So you're not joining a group. That is a really big key factor. Joining groups, look at the world, it doesn't actually work. Because when you join a group, you're conforming. We don't want you to conform, we want you to be alive. We want you to share. So this sustainable model, and the portal.life is, unless you are an approved client, because we have to go through an approval process, we want to make sure that you are aligned to the integrity agreement. So it is in process. So it's something that, and Kim or myself can talk to you about as well after this. So there is actually something already in play, and it's powerful. Because the more people that come through, and it's a movement, and it's a fluid movement. It's not just you join a group, you stop there. And then we want to learn from you. So it becomes this movement of growth, expansion, sharing, collaboration, and that care that we were talking about. So there is something already in place. And as a sustainable model, which to me sustainable means nourished, whole, of high integrity, all those, or not just words, but the actual living of it is everything. It actually works. And so it's been functioning for over a year now, and there's a lot coming. And that includes education. This is not just about cannabis. It's not even just about health and wellness. It's how do we want to live. Cannabis is simply an incredible platform, an incredible opener for a way of living that we can go.
So where do we find these hubs, and where do we buy the oil?
Sorry, we're just having a giggle to ourselves.
See this lady.
In front of you, Kim, she'll be able to talk to you about the hubs and what we do ask for, because of a duty of care and a responsibility, and the fact that we do know that when you imbibe cannabis, that it can actually change things. And if you're taking medication, you need to know what can be the contraindications. It's responsible use of it. And so you fill out an application form because we want to know what's going on. And then if you need extra help, there's other people who have done the course who understand cannabis who may have other modalities, if you need a counsellor, for example, or someone more. So that will all come through. So yeah, so speak to Kim, but it's all here.
Yeah, we have discussed this, and it is working a little bit. We're going to be putting more effort into it where, because of our databases being so extensive, there'd be a lot of postcodes that people would be living in altogether. So you let them all know that, within their postcode there's 15 other people using and whatever. So they form their own little community. They don't have to become friends, but they can be assistants, or they can possibly have some medicine when somebody runs out, for all that sort of stuff. Just have little hubs within communities where they're not too far away from each other. So that's what we sort of looked into. We never got to it because it becomes really busy when you start to do it, believe me. But that's a possibility. If you have people coming together of the same lifestyle and needs and how they want to live. But yeah, we're all in the babe stages. We're all in the infant stages of trying to move away from a society that's really not working.
I was very interested in what you said about the legal situation. I don't know if you're aware of the precedent that was set about a year ago by Ron Berry. He was stopped with a very high level of cannabis,
Yep.
and he objected to the test very strongly. And in the court, he argued.
Sorry, if you're having a discussion, could you please take the mic just so in audience?
I'm talking about the case of Ron Berry about a year ago, who was stopped on a random drug test and proved positive. He was also taking a hemp-based medicine, and he argued in the court that their test was not sensitive enough to discern between cannabis with THC, which they would consider to be illegal, and hemp, which is perfectly legal and acceptable. And he got an expert witness to show that scientifically, and I believe that Judge Halpern was the judge, I think, at that time. No, he wasn't, somebody else, sorry. But he won the case, and so that is a very positive precedent that anybody who is caught in that similar situation can make that same argument, that it has already been proved in the courts that their test is not able to distinguish between an illegal THC-based cannabis and a hemp-based medicinal product which is perfectly legal.
Sorry, what I've got to ask you, are you referring to a court case? Yes. Now, what's the name of the court case that I can refer to?
Ron Berry.
R-O-N?
B-E-R-R-Y. It's Lismore.
Okay, New South Wales. What year?
About a year ago.
So 2020. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's good information, but I must say this, that that's an interesting way to fight it, because the THC molecule, whether it be in hemp or in cannabis, that makes no difference. It's still a THC molecule. So because he was taking the hemp shouldn't have been legal with the THC in it. It's supposed to only be 0.3 or 0.03% THC. So I suppose he was good. He obviously did well, but he would have to prove that the hemp that he was taking had about, hopefully, 0.03% THC in it. Okay, wow, okay, it's an interesting way to do it. Yeah. There was somebody else that mentioned that with the hemp seeds too, that because the seed does brush up against the head of the plant or the trichomes and all the, all the follicles and whatever on the flower, on its way out of the plant to be then crushed or to be then hulled, that the possibility of THC rubbing onto the skin or the hull of the seed, and that's why the government couldn't ever make THC completely or eradicate it completely out of the hemp seed. So it's an interesting way of doing it. Yeah, I like that. Anyway. Any other questions? I suppose in closing, all I can say, guys, is please don't be scared of what we are actually supposedly in control of, and that is the public servants. This country has, and many other countries, have very, very easily moved into an area of not realizing that politicians and police and whatever actually are public servants. And they need to be brought back into that understanding that they're not just commercial entities who get paid money, and they do. So that's the only way we're going to change things, besides Nikki's way, obviously. How you doing, Shauna? So yeah, guys, any questions, please let us know. And I have a website, obviously, the churchofubuntu.org, and Nikki's got a natural law website. And that gentleman over there is Richard, and he's doing amazing things with hemp. Hey, Richard, we have to talk later. So please don't be scared, guys. Step up, and if you're passionate about this plant and way it can help the future of humanity, follow it, because it will. It's the only plant on the planet that will actually help humanity last a bit longer, in my honest opinion. Yeah. Along with a few other plants, but yeah, definitely this one. Thank you.